We have a true firecracker on our hands. She's an American in London. She is head of the Brand Innovation Lab for Amazon, and she is a triple threat. I mentioned 2 things earlier. We've now, by decree, come up with 3. Not only is she a super brain, and you're going to learn so much, she's also a fantastic speaker. And my delight, she really has excellent dress sense. I want you to make her feel incredibly welcome. You are going to learn so much from her. It's Kate McCagg, everyone.
That is such an introduction. I feel so much pressure now to deliver. I just need to get myself sorted out here for a second. How amazing have these speakers been this morning? I mean, the creative people, just the style, the silver pants that just made their way. I mean, this crowd has so much awesome, awesome energy. And it's so, I find, you know, now being a person working in a tech company that used to work in creative agency for ages, that being surrounded by creative people is so energizing. And I think a big reason for that is because we have, oh, hold on, maybe I clicked the wrong button. There we go. We have main character energy. The people in this crowd, you've all been in a room, you've had to hold it on your own. But I have kind of a hot take, and this took leaving the agency world and working at a tech company to realize that in this story of this agency or this kind of creative industry that we work in, we are not the main character. I know that, just take a moment with that. That's, it's a lot, right? I mean, especially here, like we're surrounded by people, we all are kind of like, yes, we are the main character, this story is about us. This, you know, we are at the core, like Mad Men, I see myself there. And I think that there's a very good reason why we think that. And that is because keeping ideas alive requires ego. And Juan's talk got really to the core of it. Like, you need to believe in yourself and have passion in what you're saying so that other people believe you. And so much of what we do as creatives can seem like magic to ourselves and to others. We are putting things together in unexpected combinations that people haven't seen before. We create things out of thin air. And so that can sort of both feed our ego and requires ego for us to be successful. But I think as you know, the hot topic that we'll be living with for ages is as AI comes in and starts to show us that it can make images with just us typing something in. And I'm a copywriter by trade, so I deeply appreciate that ability. But as AI gets better at making images and making video and synthesizing millions of data points into concepts that at this point are already being evaluated at a PhD level of sophistication, I think that we as the humans and the drivers inside of this industry need to think about how ego might get in the way of us succeeding in the future. So if we're not the main character, which I realize takes a moment to kind of adjust to, who is the main character? There's a lot of different parties in this story that we all live in our industry. And so one thing that might seem like it's possible is that the clients are the main character. They can feel like the center of gravity in a lot of the work we do. And the 2024 Deloitte CMO study showed that they actually feel a fair amount of pressure to be the main character in the industry. So 75% of CMOs agree that the long-term success of their organization depends on their ability to foster creative ideas. 70% feel that their marketing organizations are relied upon for the most creative ideas that the entire company will see in any given year. So there's a chance that they are the main character in our industry. But personally, having worked with a lot of different clients, I don't think that clients are the main character because the best ones are actually quite selfless. They're there in service of the brand that they represent. And so that's the thing that they're there to protect. And although this is a service business, and we can often sort of treat the client like they are the main character, I don't think they're the main character. So is it brands? Are brands the main character? You may have seen this statistic at some point in the week. It always comes up at some point, so I'm here to check that bingo card, that people would not care if 75% of the brands they know today disappeared tomorrow. That's grim, puts a lot of pressure, I think, on advertising to make those brands matter. But it shows that brands may not have the staying power, really, to be the main character in an industry like ours. There's a small chance, and I think we've seen some great work from some of the examples of these brands, that if the brand that you work on or the brand that you run is in the top 25 global brands, maybe every once in a while you could step out into the light and be the main character. There's a chance, but by and large, in this story that we work in, we have to work on a lot of brands that are not carrying the level of main character energy that they would need to be driving this industry. So the last one is really about products. Are products the main character? Products are usually the main character in some of the best advertising that's made. So it could be sort of easy to see how maybe we think that products are really at the core. But products are also fleeting. They don't have what it takes to carry this story. 30,000 products launch every year. Within 18 months, 80% of those are off the shelf. So products are just out there trying to survive. I don't think products can be the main character in this industry because we need something that lasts and something with gravity that can really carry us forward. And shoppers report only being loyal to 11 products in their lifetime. So they're just looking for a new main character. If this was the main character, this story would be all over the place. We use hundreds, probably thousands of products in our life. If we're only loyal to 11, I don't think that they have it. They're a supporting character for sure, because we spend hours and hours thinking about them, trying to make stories about them, but I don't think they're the main character in our industry. So who is? Who does that leave you with? Well, I will tell you how I figured out who I think it is, and this is sort of where my personal transformation as a creative professional comes in. So when I came to Amazon, I had worked in creative agencies for 17 years. And I was an ECD when I left my last agency. And so I perceived myself as the main character, I'll be honest. And I showed up at Amazon, and I joined a team, which is the team that I now run globally, which is a team of creatives who work across multiple product teams inside of Amazon to bring together the most interesting things that we have to bear. Everything from lockers, where you pick your packages up, boxes, the website, Alexa, different parts of the Amazon experience to bring brands in and create co-branded experiences with them. And they do that with us by spending media inside of our Amazon ads business. So I felt, pretty important. I'm a creative director. But the people who I started dealing with on a regular basis, they were product people, they were engineers, they were media salespeople. They didn't even know why there was an advertising creative person in the story that they were living. They were like, what are you even doing here? But I didn't know this. Like, I had no idea. I just, my whole career was in the agency world, so I just thought, like, I'm walking in here, I'm the main character. And the first review that I had, there was some work that the team had been working on for a while, and I was there for maybe a month, and these things take ages to build. I mean, we have to work across so many different teams. And I came in, the work was sort of halfway done, and I was like, I don't really think this is that good. Like, I think we could do better, and I think we should do better, and my team has some other ideas I'd like to introduce. And one of the product engineers in the room was like, I'm sorry, we've been working on this for quite some time. What does good even mean? And I was just like, what do you mean? What do you mean, what does good mean? Like, good means that I like it? I mean, I'd not been asked this question before. Like, I'd gone, years. When you build up enough confidence and you're building yourself up sort of as that main character that can go into a room and convince strategists and account people and clients and everyone, like, this is what we should go forward with, and like, follow me into this room. You really believe that that's enough. But they did not believe that that was enough. And they asked me, what data do you have that tells you this idea is good? Can you imagine if somebody asked you that question, like in a creative environment? I mean, I was absolutely furious. I was just like, okay, well, my career is over. I guess I could go back to an agency or something. I was so fuming because this question insulted me on a level that was like on the identity level. Because I felt like, well, if I say that something is good, then it's good. Or if another creative director says that something is good, then it's good. Subjective judgment is all it took up to that point for me to take ideas forward. And these people just did not even, that currency had no value in that room, like whatsoever. And they wanted data. And I was just like, okay, well, if I need data to sell creative ideas, where do I even get it? Like, there's all this conversation about like data and how important it is, and we need to be thinking about it, but getting it is just not as easy as people make it seem. And I've been at Amazon now for 7 years. And so now, when someone asks me this question, I know how to answer this question, and I know how to find what I need to sell ideas. And we've made some things that I'm quite proud of, some things that are really fun, that bring fun to the shopping experience. A few examples, we were working with Cheetos, and they wanted us to kind of build a page and sell them snacks. And what we saw when we started looking at social and what people were really talking about around Cheetos was that online and social, they were using it in recipes. They were grinding it up or crushing it and turning it into some kind of a seasoning. And so we designed a kitchen utensil and sold it exclusively on Amazon and did it as a kind of holiday gift drop. They sold out in minutes. It was in Food and Wine magazine. It was just, we just really thought more about what does the user want to see instead of what does the brand want to do. In this particular case, we saw in reviews of multiple dog food brands that people try to write reviews for dog food by interpreting their dog's body language. So they're like watching the dog eat it, and you can just see, the reviews are very colorful. They're like, oh, he wags his tail a little bit. He usually wags it a lot when I give him this food, and whatever. They're really trying to interpret it. And there's a camera inside of the Amazon app that you could use to recognize any image and shop it directly from the object that's in front of you. So we used an AWS model, trained the camera to recognize dog body language, and made this app within the Amazon app that could write reviews that interpreted your dog's body language. Now, this is just sort of a fun, interesting experience, but Kevin referenced before about how, AI can sort of fuel creativity. There's AI in this execution because every person who scanned a dog got a unique review that was written in the voice of what we thought that breed of dog might say and how they might talk. Now, a copywriter had to write, 50 reviews written from a dog's voice, of course, to feed the model. But just to give you like a practical application of how we applied AI to creativity, it's not about the idea. The customer or the user would never know. But this is just one place where we were able to integrate that in because of an interesting behavior that we saw from people who are shopping on Amazon. If you've ever bought denim online, I'm sure you know it's a nightmare. You can see that, we can see that in the cart, that people will put the denim in the cart and leave it there for ages. You can see that people are trying to help one another in the reviews in a lot of these categories. I tried this is what worked for me, this is my body type. So we created an experience where we shot the clothes in motion on multiple body types, just made the retail environment inside of Amazon where it's just easy to add to cart. You can get it quickly, and just brought some of that sort of premium shopping experience to Amazon to make denim shopping a little bit easier. This is a really interesting one from the US, where we were working with a financial services company who found that 54% of Black Americans did not have enough savings to retire. And that's a really, obviously, quite a critical issue when you think about the future and what that means for the US economy. But the way that the brand tackled it was in more of a kind of culturally relevant way. So they partnered with Wyclef Jean, who wrote a song that he revealed on Jimmy Fallon's Tonight Show about, in the culture or in the language of hip hop, about what it means to struggle and save and prepare yourself for the future. So it really translated that kind of financial services language into something that people could understand. Now, the way that we brought this to life on Amazon is that we put real legs and action under this. So working with Amazon Music and with Fire TV, which is our sort of streaming TV device, every time you streamed that song, a donation was made to an organization called First Generation Investors. And that's an organization that gives $100 to hundreds and thousands of students in the US to teach them how to invest in the stock market. So it's really very like one-to-one connection, and allowed the people who use these devices to actually sort of take some action and feel like consuming this branded content could lead to something meaningful. And then a last, again, like a very practical example, kind of in line with the denim example, shopping for makeup and getting that right, shopping for the right sort of skin match is really quite complicated. But again, there's a camera in the application. And so we were able to activate that camera to allow people in that camera view to see multiple shades at the same time, tried out on their skin, and in order to sort of just make a more confident purchase. These products are surprisingly expensive, so you don't really want to buy the wrong one and have to return it. So just like a few experiences just to kind of give you a sense of the way that we think about the work and the types of things that we make. Now, to kind of explain the point that I'm making around the fact that ego is not enough to sell ideas like this, I'm going to use an example that we built this year in Italy. So this campaign was called Alexa, Have Your Say. And we work in our team about 5 times a year. We will work on a pro bono project where we donate media or we donate creative services to help a brand achieve something that they might not be able to achieve without us. And so we took on this project with an organization called ActionAid. And one of the pieces of information that they shared with us during our work with them, which was around International Women's Day, was that 63% of women in Italy had experienced either verbal or physical abuse in their lifetime. And the large majority of the folks who experienced physical abuse experienced verbal abuse first. And we also knew, because the Alexa device is sort of a part of our creative canvas, that millions of people effectively verbally assault Alexa on an annual basis. They say things to her that you would never say to a person. And so what we saw was an opportunity to intercept a moment where people are thoughtlessly using cruel language to what is not a person, but has a female name and a voice that sounds like a female. And to intercept those insults with data points that ActionAid wanted to provide. And so anyone who insulted Alexa on International Women's Day was given a pretty sobering statistic about the insidious effects of verbal abuse on women. Now, the effects of this, or the results of this campaign were really impressive. So the total population of Milan is 3 million. So for 9 million people to have seen this through organic PR, no media spend, was something that we were incredibly proud of. ActionAid saw a 22% increase on their site. And the value of this experience drove $1 million of media value for them, or sorry, euros, €1 million in media value. And then, just total gravy. At the Art Directors Club of Italy, we received a silver, a bronze, and 2 shortlists. So we were so, so, so proud of this work. Thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Now, you would think that looking at this, that this is obvious, right? Like when you see the results and you kind of see the case study, you're like, well, of course, that all tracks. But we all know that there's a story behind all of these things, right? So the truth is that when we first brought this idea to Alexa, they were really not enthusiastic about the idea of calling attention to the fact that people insult the device. That shows the device is fallible. If the device didn't make mistakes, then people wouldn't shout obscenities at her. I mean, we may have heard this logic before. And so for us to try to convince them, if I had to make that argument 7 years ago, I would have said, come on, this is a great idea. This idea is so good. And it's going to make us look so good, and the organization will get some attention, and it'll let our creatives show what they can do. Like, this would have been my argument, and it would have made perfect sense. And it's probably an argument that we've all made before. The problem is that argument is only effective if you are arguing with someone who believes that the creative is the main character. So they have to believe that the arguments that you're making, that this allows the creatives to show their skills, that it's good. Like, it requires a real leap for the people on the other side. And working at Amazon, it is very clear on a regular basis, and I have some people here from my team who will, I think, validate this, that the creatives are not the main character in the work that we're doing. In everything we build, the main character is the customer. And I think, now, after having experienced this, that the best way to sort of future-proof our role in this process is to side selflessly with the customer, the user, the person who is watching the advertising that we're making. We need to think about them as we bring our industry forward. And so just going back to this example, just so that I can sort of make a practical explanation of kind of how this case was made to people who do not believe that the creative is the main character. If you're thinking about how an experience can make the customer's life better, then the argument here is clear. If 63% of women in Italy have been verbally or physically abused, then this is an issue that is clearly deeply affecting a large portion of the Amazon shopper customer base. And if millions of insults are also coming from the Amazon customer base to Alexa, we have a responsibility to improve the lives of all of those people. And so the case that we made going back to them was a data-driven case. It was about the fact that this affects our customers. We can't hop over to like happy, let's talk to movie characters on Alexa land when this is something that is happening on a regular basis with our devices. And bringing data to that conversation is what got us buy-in from those partner teams. Now, again, like I said before, I know this is not as easy as it sounds. I'm sure that if someone were to ask you that question, what data do you have to prove that this idea is good, which still kind of makes me gag a little bit. It was such a terrible experience. The truth is that most creative briefs do not have the customer as the main character. And they don't have, there's not enough data to make the customer the main character. That's not where we take the time. Just by way of example, how many of you have gotten a brief where the target audience was men 18 to 34? Like, that was pretty much what you got, right? Like, men 18 to 34. OK, so just for a second, just because I know, I was a creative for ages. I glided over that section of the brief pretty fast myself. Picture in your mind an 18-year-old boy. OK, so now picture a 34-year-old man. What do those people have in common? I mean, other than that they're a man. And if you are an 18 to 34-year-old man in this room, did you picture yourself? Yeah, of course you did, right? I mean, because you need insightful data and rich anecdotes to make the customer the main character. In order to be an advocate for someone that you don't know, you have to take the time to get to know them. And you need data and supporting anecdotes that put flesh on the bones of those typical target audiences that you've been handed for your entire career. You have to push for this in your briefs, and you can do it yourself if you have to. You have to make everyone on your team an advocate for the customer as the main character. And if you find that you're kind of hitting the bottom of the well and you don't have enough information, I have a few places where you might start, things that you can just easily access that will hopefully help you make the customer into a fully formed main character. So I would struggle to name something at this point that is not being reviewed online. I mean, every airline, every hotel, every product. I mean, you can read Amazon reviews, you can read other reviews, but read the reviews before you start coming up with ideas. Because this is customers. These are people using this thing you're trying to sell, telling you what is right or wrong with it. It could even help you question the brief, because if you see 1,000 reviews where people are saying, oh, this bag of cat litter is too heavy, then why have they given you a brief to be like, now 20% larger? Like, somebody needs to come back and bring the customer into the room as the main character. I was once, before I came to Amazon, I was working on a sexual health brand, and on Amazon, you can see, when someone reviews something, you can see the other things that they've reviewed as well. Just as a user, you can see this. And over and over again, every product in their portfolio, the people who bought that also bought this very specific pair of black Skechers trainers. I mean, just do with that what you will, but it paints a picture, right? I mean, it makes this person real. And I think that those kind of details are just absolutely critical. And it's out there, so it's worth taking the time to look at it. The other thing that I've learned from working now sort of on the media side of the business is that your media counterparts who are working on the same assignment you're working on are drowning in data about the customer. They know what they're reading. They know what they're following on social. They know what they're watching. And these are the things, again, like this is how these people are spending their time. You need to make the target audience real, because otherwise you will make it you. You will just make yourself a proxy for someone who is very likely not in the privileged position that you're in. So ask your account teams, however you need to do it, make that connection so that you can see how have previous campaigns performed. We never get the privilege of understanding what our work actually did for the business, but the media people know. Ask them. And finally, just be curious about them. We are curious about so much. That is our strength. And I would even go so far as to say be obsessed with them. Like, think about what that means and how it changes your behavior. Lose yourself in the data and the information that you can get, everything you can get your hands on. Know that customer better than anyone in the room. As a creative, if you know the customer better than the client, who's probably not taking the time to get to know them as the main character because they are that selfless advocate oftentimes for the brand they represent, then you're not bringing your full value and you're using your curiosity to your full advantage. So I think bringing the main character energy into forums like this, and honestly into an environment, in the agency environment, it's what makes agency so vibrant. It's what makes being surrounded by creative people so energizing. It's incredibly important to fill yourself up and feel that you're the main character in your story, but in the story of the agency and creative world, I think it's so, so important to remember that it is not about us.
Kate, thank you. Thank you so much for that, Kate. And I love the slide about be curious. Curiosity is also everything. Now, we are on to our final speaker of the festival. Sad face, sad face. And we have a firecracker in our midst.